Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and I have a guest today, Dr. Milan Sambarak. Welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Great to have you as always. And Jim Eat from Eat Foundations. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.
Great to have you as always. So obviously everybody's aware of what's happened to Netflix and its earnings. This is absolutely incredible event, uh, meaning that first of all they are going much farther than their competitors, whether it's Disney and many others. They're signing a contract with wrestling for
Yes.
next 10 years. And if they will do that, they can go to all mainstream sport at some point, whether it's a basketball and hockey and football and so on. So that makes them powerhouse. And the stock is, as we speak now, it's up 12.5%, and it was actually higher even a few couple hours ago. I was able to make a little bit of money on that. I didn't expect such a great move. I thought that it will be somewhat positive earnings. So my strategy was I sold both a couple of days before the earnings. I sold both put and calls, and I also bought protective calls to cover my calls just in case like this. So, that will be absolutely, it's almost vertical move on them. So my protective calls covered my potential losses on selling short, and everything what I gained from the puts is staying as the same. So I earned a good money with selling puts and a little bit of money by having essentially spread between selling calls and buying higher calls as well. So, but what's also important is that was a fundamental before the opening bell for all other stocks, specifically Nasdaq stocks, they all went up very significant way. So I've rolled over. I made very good money on short Nvidia puts, and I initiated another position. But now I moved. If my previous price was 445, sorry, 545 now. Uh, they're moving so fast that I have to almost jump by 100. So now I sold 570, for which I got a much better premium, and I closed with profit my previous position. So now I have a cushion, just recent one, because I have so many cushions on NVIDIA. So that's really funny. But the recent one now covers my potential losses if there are on with the present position. But again, I don't think that I will even hold this position for long because I want once there is a significant profit, or at least say couple of thousand dollars, I will close position and initiate a new one with the higher price, exercise price, of course. Well, that's how it works, at least for me, this latest developments. Milan, how are you doing? How is S&P 500 doing?
The S&P 500 has been up for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, for 5 years, for 10 years. The
And
U.S.
100 years.
has been doing very well, really. And so all attempts to beat that market work sometime in the short term, but not so in the long term. So let me quote David Swenson, who managed the Yale uh, portfolio, their endowment portfolio for a long time. It grew faster than any other university endowment. Harvard's is bigger, but Yale's is in second position, but has grown much, much faster. And David Swenson said, I quote him, security selection and market timing make no material contribution to returns. He said asset allocation accounts for the largest share of portfolio returns. And he also said that when you look at the results on an after tax basis, over a reasonably long period of time, there is almost no chance that you will end up beating an index fund. So if an investor bought SPY with 10% of annual income and did so for 30 years or so before retiring, that investor should have someone standing by when he checks the portfolio because it'll be so large he will fall over. Now, why would you want to beat that? Actually, I had a $100,000 bet payable by the loser to the winner's favorite charity if anyone thinks that he can beat SPY over the course of a decade. Now, I don't have that bet anymore because 10 years from now, I'll be 94 years old. I may not even be around to see that happening. But over the last quite a long time, I had that standing bet, $100,000, and nobody took me up on it. So
If I would know about that, I would take your bet, but unfortunately,
Of
I
course you
learned
would.
about your bet too late.
But you're a market wizard, as is James. You two are market wizards, and most people cannot beat the market over the long term. Over the year or two or a few years, yes, possibly, but nobody took me up on that bet. So outliers like Warren Buffett have actually beaten the market as represented by SPY, as have you. But he stated that he would not be able to continue doing that, and rightly so, because the money that he is leaving his widow, because he will predecease her almost for sure, is invested exactly in the way we recommend. Buy SPY and stay put and wait for it to grow. So, our members, people of Monday Morning Millionaire, this organization that we have, which has about 300 people in it, mostly professionals, we are just as glad to see the market rising as we are to see the market falling. We're happy to see the market rising because we take profits. We're happy to see the market falling because we buy bargains. The way that's situated, it works exactly that way. So now, over the last decade or so, there have been one or two opportunities annually to buy bargains or to take profits. So money that we're going to need in the next 3 years or so for basic needs does not belong in the market. And having the money in the market the way we do, by buying the entire US market itself rather than individual stocks, will perform that well. And we are happy to see it falling because we buy bargains. We're happy to see it rising because we take profits. So that's my take. And so now, if you're going to pick individual stocks, which we recommend in a fund portfolio for people who want to have such a thing, we recommend that they take a look at Tyson, because we spoke last time about cattle raising and the environmental impact on that. And so what's happening, let me take a look what I have here. Yeah, we've talked about beef farming and the enormous environmental concerns. In the next 5 or 6 years, lab-grown beef will have a compound annual growth rate of 81%. That's something to be interested in. Production costs have been reduced by 99% because when the first lab-grown hamburger patty was produced, it cost $330,000 to produce it. Now it can be bought for about the same price as a regular hamburger. Lab-grown meat has not been approved by regulatory agencies yet, except for chicken, which has been approved in North America. It's still not available anywhere, but they have had it in Singapore for quite a while. And so that's a reality. We can reduce the environmental impact by growing in the lab the meat that we are now growing in a cattle ranch, and reduce the environmental impact, that negative environmental impact, very significantly, while we can get that at the same cost as regular meat today. So we recommend that inside their fund portfolio, people look at Tyson. Now, as far as the fund portfolio is concerned, there are two issues here that are important. One is we should never have any more money in it than we can afford to lose totally and not be reduced to having to eat cat food. That's number one. And number two, we recommend that don't ever check it because you're almost for sure going to be disappointed. So there we go. That's what I have to say today.
I'm impressed that you're telling all that in my presence on my program. That's you have
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me back.
impressed. I am impressed. Okay, Jim, how are you doing with your fund? Are you still checking your fund portfolio? Or you
I
know?
am every day, and it's all green.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Do you have
I hope it stays green.
Tyson? Do you have Tyson in your
I
fund?
do not. I will check into it though. Way back when I bought Beyond Meat for my niece, and it did extremely well, and now it's tanked. And I don't know if she's sold it or held it, but I'm on board with this. Because it turns out that it all tastes like chicken.
James, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Is Beyond Meat made out of vegetables entirely designed to taste like chicken? Entirely vegetables. It is not lab grown meat, is it?
No, it's made out of plants, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's plant based, and my niece was a vegan, so I thought it was a good thing to buy for her. But
So if Beyond Meat is doing so poorly, why Tyson, on the other hand, will do so well? What makes you think so, Milan?
well, I think Beyond Meat got a lot of competition.
Oh, yeah.
It was first in, and then all of a sudden it got so much competition that the people shifted money away from that to other companies that were and it's all about competition. So those they're going to be winners and losers. And I don't know about I haven't looked into Tyson, but my thinking it has been, and it's been rewarded. I've been thinking that semiconductors are part of national security now, and so I've been investing primarily in that segment. And the two winners that I picked early and have since sold, and Milan has comforted me that selling early is not so bad. Because I made my targets. I made the money that I was expecting to. One was Taiwan Semiconductors, and with the kind of saber rattling like China has done, I thought that maybe people would get frightened off of owning the Taiwan company, but that doesn't appear to be true. So I may have sold a little early on that one. The other was Nvidia, and we've talked a lot about Nvidia. And one of the things I wanted to bring up on the many positive things we've said, it seems to be the chip of choice for AI in your cars. And this was not one of the original reasons I bought it. I bought it because of its ability to provide a full service to people that wanted to exploit AI. But going into the electronic vehicles and all of that kind of stuff is just another feather in its cap. It's going to be dominant in that, from all indications. So this is the other things that I had bought more recently. Let me just refresh my memory. Marvel. MRVL is a ticker, and they're in the same space, but they're less expensive in terms of is selling it very, very high. There's another one, ASML, which is that's the ticker tape for it. It's a Dutch semiconductor company, and they reported record earnings. And so I also think but that's over 700 a share. So again, a little bit I want to buy chunks of what I can then sell puts and calls and get into the way that Sasha treats it in 2024. That's the kind of my learning curve for 2024. But this is just more evidence. In Europe, they're also buying semiconductor chips, and companies that are providing them are making record profits. And I think 2024 is going to be defined in large part by earnings, corporate earnings, and the earnings are off the charts. And Sasha talked about Netflix, off the charts, and it seems to have been the dominant player in the streaming universe, and is now going up, branching out. there's another. It was a Paramount. I forget now. Would broadcast one of the playoff football games, and or Peacock. I think. In any case, it was one of those broadcast vehicles, and that may be the way of the future. So once they get their hands into the sports world, I mean, that is mega dollars. So,
Absolutely.
AMD is also doing phenomenally well. I took a very small position in Intel because they seem to have been reorienting towards AI. And, because I thought they were kind of a sleepy giant of the past, but now they seem to be putting more R&D and investing more into AI. And they were a once dominant player. Remember, Intel Inside was always on all the marketing. But I think that they have a future in AI, and they're relatively cheap. Marvel was relatively cheap, but it's becoming less cheap as we talk. AMD is about 180 right now, so not as. But I've had that in my portfolio for a long time, so it's been very rewarding for me. And so the concentration not on individual stocks, but on a sector, and then picking what you think are going to be the winners out of all of that sector. Because there's going to be winners and losers, and if you use your experience and tools and techniques that you've developed as an investor to place your bets on the ones you think are going to be winners, this has been I've had a track record of success by doing that. But I will go back to the index thing, because I also am a believer that I've told both of you that you're both right. And I thought back in the 90s, if the NASDAQ hit 5,000, I would be fine. I would have no more financial worries. Well, it's well over 15,000 now. And so I've learned to say that when people ask me, I say I'm comfortable. But, I'm more than comfortable. And so it's been tremendous reward for me to be in the market. And I think the U.S. market is the place to be. And whether it's the NASDAQ or the S&P 500. I was more NASDAQ oriented because my background was in technology, but the S&P 500 is, as Milan has been telling us all along, that is placing the bet on the American market. So that I don't think you can go too far wrong if you do that. And so it's a question of whether you think that the trend of proven track record will continue, and that is satisfactory to meet your needs. That's an excellent way to go. And if you're like Sasha and I, and a little bit greedier, and you trust yourself a little bit more, then I think you can try to beat that. And as Milan says, most people think that they can do it and they can't. And I can say that I have.
Congratulations.
Excellent. Well done.
Both of you spoke about your winnings, so allow me to talk about my investment winning. I bought a Tesla about 7 or 8 years ago, and I paid $140,000 for it. Now, that sounds like a lot to pay for a car. However, it is made of aluminum, so it will not rust. There are no fuel costs because charging it at a supercharger is at no charge to people who bought it then. And there's no maintenance requirement. You don't need to take it in for maintenance. So people on average spend $8,000 a year on fuel and maintenance, which is an expense which I don't have, which is a very nice return on that $140,000 that I paid for my Tesla. Now, every once in a while, Tesla comes out with that offer again, where they will give buyers the right to supercharge the car at no charge. So buyers might want to look at Tesla once in a while to see when such an offer comes up. They might even call the company and tell them to let them know to get in touch with them when such an offer comes up. Because in order to sell better, Tesla does that every once in a while. So I can recommend that.
And I've owned a Tesla for about 5 years now, and I just this morning had my first maintenance. They replaced the battery, and they came out to my house and did it.
Yeah, came out to your house. Yeah. If
So
they come to your house unless they need a hoist. If they need a hoist, then you have to take it over.
right,
And
right.
then they give you a loaner, which is another Tesla.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a great way. In the past, it has been a great investment, and history shows that likely to continue being a great investment.
Well, I think the electronic vehicles are the future, and or hybrids, but I think we're well on the way to, and the infrastructure is a problem, but that's being built as we speak.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I approve of the Biden administration for really paying attention to that.
And a lot of people like Nick Palivede are furious that administration spends money on Tesla's project, but
Yes.
okay, we can satisfy them all. Now, very important thing, Camila, and while we were discussing, I have to take a look at a chart of Tyson Foods. And there are some disturbing things. I took last 12 months. I can make longer, but that's probably enough from January 23, 2023 to today's date, which is exactly 12 months or 1 year, whatever you want to say. So the stock went down from about 65 dollars and 72 cents, so 65 and a half, let's say, to less than 53 and a half. So it's in 1 year it's lost about 20% or so. And the chart itself, actually, it was as low as 45 and a half just exactly 2 months ago. So it's recovering from this low, but it's far away from its 1 year.
Sasha, I mentioned Tyson simply because it is one of the companies that's producing lab-grown meat. And I just mentioned Tyson because that happens to be the case. But there are several other companies that investors could look at. Doesn't have to be Tyson. Could be.
And Tyson's not getting any revenues based on the lab-grown meat. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. But there are other companies, and I haven't looked into them, but investors could, speaking generally, look at companies that are involved in producing lab-grown beef and lab-grown chicken. Doesn't have to be Tyson.
I don't know. I have some kind of psychological difficulties to look at these companies when you have NVIDIA, when you have TSM, when you have even not a big fan, but Intel, maybe Netflix, for example, another one. And I have a very difficult time.
Well, let me ask you
looking at something.
Let me ask you this, Asha. When you buy your NVIDIA and Taiwan Semiconductors and so on, who are you buying that security from? You're buying it from somebody who has the opposite idea, does not agree with you. That's why they're selling most of the time. That's the reason why they're selling. Both the buyer and the seller cannot be right.
Milan, we already had numerous discussions about that, and we agreed many times, as many times as we discussed, that this proposition simply doesn't hold its own. It's absolutely wrong proposition, because there is no other place to buy stock than from somebody else. There is no mechanism.
Somebody who thinks differently. Can both of you?
I don't care what somebody thinks. I really don't. I never.
Well, in my case, I sold NVIDIA, and I won because I got my target price, and the guy that bought it from me won because it kept going up.
Yeah, there you go. No, that's true. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Mark, you had a question.
I did have a question. By the way, I was seeing that Tyson started in Arkansas, and apparently they're considered a modern multinational protein-focused food company producing approximately 20%, so 1 out of 5 of the beef, pork, and chicken in the United States. So they definitely produce a whole lot of the chicken and everything. And Sasha, they actually got a PR person, so maybe we'll reach out to them and see if they want to come on and talk about their investments and all along those lines, since I did see an email for them and everything. But my question was actually around something totally separate, and I kind of alluded to it before we started the show and everything. But I did see that Elon Musk is involved in artificial intelligence with quantum AI and all along those lines, and he's actually tied that into Bitcoins apparently, because he's saying that you can make all this money off of Bitcoins and his AI. And apparently recently, like in the last day or two, Mr. Zuckerberg, many people know him as being the Facebook founder and everything, is looking not just at AI, but artificial general intelligence, which I think is a more advanced form. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, and everything, but it's like the robots can be more human-like and do more human-like like stuff. So as y'all are in the investment game, should people be looking at AI and AGI as potential investments, or are these pie in the sky kind of ambitions? That was my question.
Interestingly, Elon Musk just opened a manufacturing plant in Munich. Munich is one of the most expensive places on earth to buy anything, except he's got a trained workforce, and AI is in use in the factories where he is making the Teslas. So never mind that on an hourly basis, the individuals who are involved in the manufacturing are costly because there's so few of them relative to conventional manufacturing. In the factory, AI does a lot of work. So
So you are not surprised that he hasn't opened his plant somewhere in Angola or
Albania. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, apparently, just down the south from us, there is a plant. I want to say in South Carolina. I'm here based in North Carolina that has literally got robots working for them as well. So I guess they're trying to figure out exactly what the robots are doing. But there is a plant in South Carolina that has got the robots that is going in there, and who knows? Maybe it's a Tesla plant or some other sort of plant. So I know a lot of people have been concerned even about the idea that maybe you'll go to a fast food restaurant and Rosie the Riveter will be sitting there serving your burgers and a number of other things. But
Yeah.
Jim, and then I'll let y'all go back to y'all's discussion. But that's the question I had. What is
Yeah.
your thoughts around this AI investment and whether that's something that people need to be looking into and all along those lines?
Yeah, I'm approaching it from buying the chips companies that support AI, because I think AI is the future. But these quantum AI, beware of what they're trying to sell you, because I think this is a long-term investment, not something that I would play with in 2024, for example. If you want to buy low and wait 5-10 years, be my guest. But that's not the way I'm playing the market in my fund
you will
portfolio.
buy these shares, Jim, and you're looking on your screen. Do you think they will show green anytime soon?
No, I'm not expecting that to happen. I think there may be some rush because of Musk's clout in the media, but I don't think they'll be rewarded anytime soon.
I don't think that he still has his cloud, because look at what's happening to Twitter. He changed his
Oh my
name.
goodness, he killed it.
The company in disarray, and I
Yeah.
will not be surprised if it will be completely dismissed in next couple of years. Now, speaking about this situation now at the market, it's again, it's becoming kind of a little bit dicey. It's overpriced by all measures and so on. But, it's especially great situation where a lot of people, professionals including, they're shorting the stocks, considering that there will be, okay, even if they will continue going higher. Okay, so another week, maybe two. Okay, months. But then it will reverse. It will go down. There will be a recession and whatever, and they're gonna make their tons of money. But in the meantime, for foreseeable future, they will have to look at a lot of red on their
Yeah.
screens. And this is even if they will eventually make some money, but it's psychologically very, very tough when you see so much red on your screen.
Those who are predicting a recession will eventually be right. However, I've been hearing it month after month since 2021, and since inflation hit because of a global pandemic due to COVID, the inflation went way up globally, not just in the United States market. But they predicted that the only way to bring inflation down was a recession, and they were certain of it in 2021, 2022, 2023, and some of them are still certain of it in 2024. I see no evidence of it. So you look at the numbers, and people, it's full employment. The unemployment rate is near historic lows. Wages have gone up. The corporate earnings are impressive, sometimes startling. So there's no signs that the economy is either overheated or poised to enter a recession. And so I am ignoring all that talk. I've heard it from market experts far too long.
Short can be very, very dangerous. It's one of the few ways that you can lose more than 100% of your investment. So we recommend against shorting.
Well said.
Just really quickly, and then I'm going to bounce off, like I said earlier, and everything. But just one thing that I've heard a lot of people talking about investing, and I think you even mentioned it, Jim. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because a lot of people are wanting their homes or even their apartments to be entirely smart. So there are a lot of people that are invested in this notion of smart technology. You don't have to worry about your coffee, or you don't have to worry about a number of other things. I mean, I'm convinced that they'll probably even take the shower for you and all along those lines. But I was just wondering your thoughts about this notion of super smart homes that might make it that you don't have to do hardly anything because the coffee's already been made, the food's already been made, everything's been done. They've even turned on the TV to your favorite channel as soon as you wake up. It might even sit there and itself and everything. But there's a lot of people, particularly out there in the West Coast, but I've seen it around the world, that are very much interested in investing in smart homes. So what is y'all's take on this notion of smart homes, and is that a good investment?
We have in our home, we have Ecobee, which helps us control the temperature of the house regardless of where we are in the world. So by using the internet. So if we are going to be away for a couple of days, we turn down the heat in the house so the pipes don't freeze. But then about an hour or so before we get back home, we turn on the heat so that we arrive to a warm house. And that installing that Ecobee is not a big deal, and it's available now. So I can, from personal experience of about 3 or 4 years with it, I can highly recommend Ecobee, which is one example of a smart home. And many more will develop. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Jim? Because like I said, I know it's very popular in California. And like I was only halfway joking, because I do think that at some point it'll throw you in the shower and you'll be able to do the shower yourself and not have to turn
Get a
on
full facial,
anything else.
mani-pedi. Yeah, no, this is inevitable, and it's something that I applaud happening. But I don't have an expertise in picking who's going to win in that market, so I'm staying out of it. I don't know what companies are going to dominate and which ones are going to fall by the wayside. So it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to get involved in until, when and if I'm curious about it enough to do my research. And right now I'm not. So
Mark, are you asking whether a smart home will be increased in value over one that isn't?
Yep, the question of value and whether it's a good
yeah,
investment, because some people are looking at it as a investment, just the way that they look at generational properties as being an investment as well. So I do know some people that are hoping that they will be able to have those smart homes passed on from generation to generation. Maybe even the next generation will further give it further incentives and make it even more better than what was handed to them and everything. Because we do know that
To me,
might change.
it's a convenience factor rather than an investment factor. It's investing is something that you buy and 15 minutes later you sell and you have to get some profit, hopefully. But in this case, it's convenience
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, I know that there's a great investment, and that's actually involved something that I know maybe Jim will be watching it, since there is a team involved in his neck of the woods and everything. But there are a lot of people that have invested, including investing in the football. Like I mentioned before, there is a team, and I don't know if there are other sports teams, but the Green Bay Packers were known because they are actually owned by the city of Green Bay, and I think that they're the only one that has done that. But they actually get some revenue
you
based on
buy
how
a
the
share.
Packers do and all in that space. So they actually did better than expected. So hopefully they'll be making some better revenue this year, even though they didn't make it to the championship game. But Jim, just really quickly, are you rooting for those 49ers, since we've got them against I think it's Baltimore, Kansas City, and San Francisco against Detroit?
Yeah. Yeah, of course I'm rooting for them. Yes.
Jim, no, sorry, I'd rather ask Milan, your home system, how much it costs to buy and install? Do you remember? Just a part.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember. I mean, the cost is forgettable because it was that low. It was not that big.
It was what, $2,000-3,000, something like this, not $20,000.
No, not 20, 2, 3, maybe even less than that.
Okay, let's agree on $2,000. My point is different. My point is that Mark was considering that as a great investment. Okay, let me ask you. You installed it, what, 2-3 years ago? 4, 5?
Yeah, 2, 3, yeah.
3 years ago, okay. And now your house definitely cost more than $2,000 than you spent on that system. Probably it costs maybe $20,000 more, or maybe $50,000 more, because all real estate went up in price, not because of that
You
little
got to add a
$60.
zero.
You know, when it comes to
Absolutely,
when it comes
it's
to
significant to all real estate value going up in
when it comes to house prices, we could take a look at the Case-Shiller index. Schiller was a Nobel Prize winning economist, and he, together with Case, and I don't know much about Case, have formed an index which tracks the house prices in 20 American cities. We don't have the equivalent in Canada yet, but the Case-Shiller index monitors house prices in 20 cities. And when you take a look at how that Case-Shiller index compares to owning SPY, it's about half as good. It's about half as good. You know that most people in many European countries, Switzerland, for example, they don't own their homes.
Yeah, I know.
They rent, they don't own their homes, and the average Swiss is wealthier than the average American and the average Canadian. So they know something that we don't know. They don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would be very, very happy to sell somebody my apartment and rent it, the same apartment, and pay monthly rent, whatever it might be,
And the money
because
you get for
free
selling,
so
yeah,
much money. And right now it's in this bloody apartment, and I
I
cannot
know.
do this money anything, and I
It's
cannot sell it.
illiquid. It's illiquid. You can't do anything with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, well, I can sell it, but if
Yeah,
you
that's
sell,
true.
you have to figure out where to move. And then the move itself, I have so many things in this apartment that it will take me probably 2 months to move. And it's such a headache. So,
Oh
okay, so
yeah,
stay.
it's
Speaking of,
stressful too.
speaking of
But
headaches
I
and
had another
everything,
thing to add. Go ahead, Mark.
no, speaking of headaches and everything, I was just wondering how much do y'all get concerned when y'all are investing about the actions or the morals of the organizations that you are investing in? Because I was actually looking, and I'm not something I'm going to invest in because I don't even know who owns it, but there was a gaming company. A lot of people know the game Solitaire, and I was looking at the online solitaire game that's out there, and a lot of it is basically like strip poker. So you play the game, and the women that are avatars will strip off based on what you're doing. And one of the games, the woman even said that she is homeless, so she's stripping while she's homeless. And in my mind, I'm going like, I don't know that I want to invest in a company like that because that could be problematic and all along those lines. So like I said, it's the traditional solitaire game. You're playing like the old-fashioned solitaire, but based on how you do. And some of it even was involving pool, which I know, Sasha, you're into, and everything, and how the shots are going. The clothes start coming off, and I'm going like, this could be a moral dilemma for some that are investing. So I was just wondering, how much do morals play into some of your investment thoughts?
In my case, zero.
would you invest in a cigarette company, Sasha?
I have cigarette companies.
You know what's happening now? People are talking about ESG, environmental, social, and generational uh, impact strategy, and so they would avoid something like companies that use children to mine gold in Africa, companies that abuse fabric workers in Pakistan, where you can now buy a pair of ski pants for $1,000. And they're made in Pakistan by people who are making $2 a day. So that sort of a thing bothers a lot of people. I
It
mean,
doesn't bother me because Altria Group, which is a company behind Philip Morris, they're paying 9.7% dividend, and it's difficult. It's so difficult to sell it and buy something for economic or what a green industry company or whatever that probably is losing money and pay no dividends at all. Or I don't know, Jim, are there any companies that are paying dividends in this green industries?
Well, that's not an area that I've been concentrating on, so I can't answer that question for you. But I do know that I do pay attention to ethics, of course.
Yeah.
And the problem is, when you're talking about multinationals, they've got their fingers in so many pies. It's
Yeah, that's true.
impossible to know exactly what they're doing that you would object to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, James. You know, when that Bhopal accident happened in India and many, many people died, the company that was involved was meeting the standards of India. those standards would not apply in North America. But over there, where they were meeting the requirements, and so it's they were doing the right thing. The wrong thing happened.
Well, and we can just
I've just discovered another one. Sorry, Jim. It's British American tobacco behind brands like Camel and many other 9.5% annual dividends. How can you fight it? How can you even?
Well, Sasha, actually, it was fought here in North Carolina. I think I mentioned it before that till she retired, and she retired almost 10 years ago. My mother actually ran the Golden Leaf Foundation, and that was the tobacco settlement money. So they used that money to actually get people into other industries, whether that was solar power or a number of other things. But it was the money that was made from the one of the tobacco settlements. Because as Jim knows, and as other people that are watching that watch from America know, there were a couple of settlements, but the Golden Leaf Foundation was created, and it still exists. So you can actually get money to get out of the tobacco industry and the tobacco businesses here in North Carolina and Virginia and all in that space. So there are times that people will fight against those things like cigarettes, and there have been successful victories.
Mark, very quick question. I think in my lifetime it's not going to happen, so I might as well ignore it. But tell me, when people stop doing this tobacco industries in your case and moved into some economic, like ecology friendly businesses, whatever, are they making any money?
They have made some money. Some of them have made money in
They
the windmills. They have made.
9.5% dividends.
I mean, they've made some good money because, like I said, it was a trust fund that my mother ran, so that she was giving them the money to actually keep them afloat and all along those lines, and they were making some pretty good profits. I'd have to look at their statistics because one of the things that if you follow the way that foundations work is that they have to give a report as to making a profit, and they also are supposed to get themselves weaned off of the foundations because a lot of times the foundations, whether it's Golden Leaf or whether it's Smith Reynolds, they don't want you to live on their dole forever, so they want you to become independent, and that is the notion of many of a foundation. And you can even go to some of the ones like Rockefeller and others that are up there in New York that give a lot of money to ecological and other things as well. So even Rockefeller has a major.
Companies like Nvidia, and Taiwan Semiconductors are not these green companies, but they don't have a negative impact on the human condition. So you can feel good about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not exploiting children or factory workers who work for $2 a week. So that's okay too.
Yeah. To get back onto like a more general topic, I noticed this morning, I just read that there's like 8.8 trillion in money markets and CDs.
Yeah.
And this is like so much money because the Fed has been, and I've been opposed to this, raising interest rates under the false idea that raising interest rates will lower inflation. The cause of the inflation and the reason that inflation is going down now has nothing to do with the Fed. It's all about the global distribution system. It broke down because of the global pandemic, and it was worldwide, the inflation, and it's being solved because the global distribution system has been repaired. Now products are being shipped, and we're getting them to their shelves. But corporate greed is still there. They're not lowering their prices, even though they're just making more money. So they're getting higher returns. But the interest rates, I think, will start to tick down. And where are you going to go if your money market is not paying 5% anymore? Where are you going to go if you're giving you the kind of return? You're going to go into the market, I think. I think you're going to.
Absolutely. There's more money now in money markets than there's ever been before.
Yeah.
And that money is looking for something to do.
Right. And they're not going to get the returns that they've been getting because the Fed just increased the interest rates so high, so sharply. And they may be hesitant to lower them. And so it may not be immediate. It may not even be in 2024. But at some point, they're going to lower the interest rates. And then that money market is not going to look so attractive. And they're going to look, I got to put my money somewhere that gets me a better return.
By the way, you're making a case for this horrible tobacco companies because when they are paying at this moment almost 10% dividends, So watch when interest rates, sooner or later, they will start going down. And when they are going down, this incredible dividends of 9.5 to 10% will become a monster. And money will, whether they like smoking or they don't, they just don't care. They need to capture this yield. And that will make, now, I don't think that they will increase the dividends, which is high enough even now, but their stock prices will go way much higher from where they are today, simply because of attractiveness of the dividends. And to get dividends, you must own the stock. There's no other way.
Sasha, along those same lines, I know that we talked about it. I think it was last week. One of the things that tobacco companies have done, and I did say that I know folks in that industry as well, is something that I know we brought up a couple of times on this show, which is diversification. Because RJR, which is a major tobacco company, also owns Nabisco, and they own a number of other things. So it seems like a lot of even the tobacco companies realize that they are getting some pushback for just being strictly tobacco companies. And I want to say that even Philip Morrison has gone into some other businesses as well. So it does seem like a lot of the tobacco companies are not just strictly staying in tobacco, and that is how they are staying afloat, because they've gone into this diversification situation. I know there were some folks on here that were fans of diversification and others that weren't as much fans, but it does seem like that is a case of diversification that is working. Because when I think of RJR, I think of Nabisco.
Mark, you're absolutely right. Altria Group, about 2 years ago, they bought a stake in cannabis production company in Canada. And so they are diversifying. You're absolutely right. Next thing you will find out that they will go into in the pharmaceutical business or maybe something else.
Who
They will.
knows?
Probably they will. They have enough money to do it.
If you own SPY, which we recommend, you own 500 of the largest companies in the United States. Are you not into diversification there?
Are you sure that Altria Group and British American Tobacco are not part of S&P 500?
I don't know. I don't know.
Check it.
They could be. They could be. Yeah.
Okay.
In that case, I own something that's evil.
Well, because I know that Philip
Hard to
Morrison,
avoid.
Philip Morrison is definitely part of the American stock market. I know that for a fact because I've seen their stock, and I want to say RJR is as well. I'm not sure, to Sasha's point, about the one that's in Canada, but definitely the two that are the primary here in America, RJR and Philip Morrison. There are a number of others are definitely on the stock exchange. There's no doubt about that.
Well, and let's not lose sight of the fact that, since the Reagan years in the 80s, there was a big push for corporations to increase their profit by shipping jobs overseas. And these jobs went to people who didn't have the government institutions like OSHA protecting them. So, if they operated dangerous machinery and got injured, that was on them tough. These countries didn't have the same rules and regulations that the United States did, so child labor was possible, all sorts of things. And we shipped these jobs, these American jobs, overseas, and the corporations made more money. The CEOs got rewarded with handsome bonuses. This was the capitalist system. So, this kind of thing has been done for a long, long time. And we either say, I'm not going to invest in anything because I don't believe in this exploitation of others. Or we say, I'm going to pick and choose as best I can with full knowledge that there is stuff going on that I don't know about and I wouldn't approve of if I did. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because this is the system that we have. This is the market that we have. And this is the only way to play the game. And you do it as well as you can. And I wouldn't invest in an evil company that is based on its dividend. But if a dividend is attractive to me, I'm going to look at the company, sure. And it depends on your person, like what you're comfortable with. And if you're comfortable with it, I'm not going to judge you for it.
The capitalist system has created more wealth and lifted more people out of poverty than any other system out there. Say the opposing system would be communism, and the definition of communism is that the means of production is owned by the state rather than by the individual companies. And so the capitalist system, even though it has created more wealth and taken more people out of poverty, does have its dark side.
Yeah.
So we have to avoid that.
And I would argue we haven't ever seen a communist state. We've seen totalitarian regimes. We've seen autocratic states posing as communists, but they're not communists.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank God we have a beautiful market system here in the United States.
Yeah.
It is a market system. Some people call it that it's a socialistic system. Some people say that it's a capitalistic system, and some other people have no opinion on that. Some people believe that it's anti-Semitic system, the racist system, the Trump system, and
It's all of the above.
all of the above. So everyone has a lot of fun with that, but there are great opportunities to make money. And as long as we can make money legally, of course,
Mhm.
it's a great thing for us. Whether you buy Netflix or you buy a tobacco company or you buy TSM, or I remember there was a time when you could buy shares of a whorehouse. Not anymore, I think, but if that would be profitable, and most of them were profitable, and
Yeah.
that, that
They're
would
the ones who made money during the California gold rush.
Sasha,
absolutely yes, Mark.
Sasha, are you sure you can't buy stock in that famous one that exists in Nevada? Because I think that might actually be one that you might be able to get a stock in, and I can't think of the name of it, but Jim probably knows the one that I'm referring
Outside
to.
my area of expertise.
But it is a famous one that they've made entire movies about, and all along those lines. I think it's in Reno or something like that. But it's been
I heard about that, but I lost track of that.
Yeah, that was in the news for some reason.
That was in the
long
news.
ago. Yeah.
Was it somewhere moment?
It was in the news recently, and by the way, I did look it up. Philip Morris stock, I think, just went down slightly, but it was up yesterday, and a lot of people were looking at that stock as being a good stock and all in that space. I did just look that up. So apparently, their stock prices, to even Milan's point, they are still being traded, and apparently they're being traded quite well. Because, like I said, even when it went down, it was only going down.
Well,
slightly.
they're a multinational. They must have their fingers in many pies. They're not just bacon cigarettes, I'm sure.
Oh, I just said Nabisco and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they've got
That's
their,
right, yeah.
their hands in all
So
kinds of
you
things.
might be buying it for entirely different reasons.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, you can't really buy a stock except it's Nvidia that wouldn't create some harm for you, whether it could be cigarettes or coffee or too much beef or too much alcohol or
Yeah,
there is
I
so
can feel
much.
good about focusing on technology because
I think
technology
so.
is not always benign, but it's how you use it that's the problem, and not the fact that it exists. And so, this is software companies that solve problems. These are the types of companies that I'm interested in general. But the idea here is to make money, and I have a foundation where it's a charitable foundation where I can make myself do good work without trying to make money for myself. But when I'm playing around in the stocks, I'm trying to make money, no doubt about it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. And I would like to thank you all for today's program. And I will see you next week, same place, same
Sasha.
time. And good luck
Bye,
in
Milan.
your
Bye, Mark.
investment.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye, everybody.